There is a kind of strength most people will never understand. Not because it's hidden, not because it's impossible, but because it demands something almost no one is willing to give: the destruction of who you currently are. Most people think strength is about pushing harder, staying motivated, or believing in themselves. They're wrong. Real strength, the kind that doesn't break under pressure, is built when everything you rely on collapses and you're forced to see what remains. And for Marcus, that moment came at 2:17 a.m. The office was silent. Too silent. No notifications, no late-night Slack messages, no team chatter, no movement. Just the faint hum of a dying startup. Marcus sat alone in the dark, staring at a screen that no longer mattered. 5 years. 5 years of sacrifice. 5 years of 16-hour days. 5 years of missed birthdays, broken relationships, ignored health warnings. All of it for this: a company that was now falling apart faster than he could process. It hadn't happened slowly. It never does. 1 week, everything looked stable. The next, everything collapsed. A competitor launched something better, faster, cheaper. Investors pulled out. 2 key team members left within days. And suddenly Marcus, the man who always had answers, had nothing. No strategy. No clarity. No control. At first, he tried to fight it. That's what he always did. Fix the problem, move faster, work harder. But this time, something was different. The more he pushed, the worse it got. His thoughts became chaotic. Simple decisions felt impossible. Emails remained unsent. Calls avoided. Sleep disappeared. And then came the panic. Not stress. Not pressure. Panic. The kind that tightens your chest for no reason. The kind that makes your hands shake while doing nothing. The kind that whispers something you don't want to hear. You're not in control anymore. 2 weeks later, Marcus broke. Not publicly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Internally. He sat in that same office, staring at nothing, and realized something that terrified him more than failure. He had no idea who he was without success. Everything about him, his confidence, his identity, his sense of worth, was tied to winning. And now that he was losing, he was disappearing. That's when James noticed. James Watanabe. Investor, mentor, quiet observer. The kind of man who didn't speak often, but when he did, people listened. He had been watching Marcus for months. Not the business. Marcus. And what he saw wasn't a failing company. It was a collapsing spirit. They met the next evening. No office, no screens. Just a quiet room and 2 chairs facing each other. Marcus started explaining everything. The competitor, the investors, the team. Problem after problem, reason after reason. But James didn't react. He just listened. Silently. Until Marcus finished. Then he said something that didn't make sense at first. You don't have a business problem. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? James leaned forward slightly. You have a foundation problem. Silence. Marcus didn't understand. So James continued. You built your entire life on something unstable. Success. And now that it's gone, you're discovering there's nothing underneath it. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. Not anger. Recognition. Because deep down he knew it was true. James didn't stop. There was a time, he said slowly, when warriors faced something much worse than losing a business. Marcus stayed silent. They faced death daily, constantly. And yet they didn't break. Not hesitate. Not collapse. not panic. They had something you don't. Marcus looked up. What? James held his gaze. A spirit that doesn't depend on outcomes. The room felt heavier. They called it a will of steel. Marcus exhaled slightly. That sounds philosophical. James shook his head. No, it's mechanical. That word landed differently. Mechanical, not emotional, not motivational, not inspirational. Mechanical. There was a system, James continued. A process. Not to make them stronger, but to remove everything that made them weak. Marcus leaned back. For the first time in weeks, he felt something unfamiliar. Not hope, not confidence, curiosity. What kind of system? He asked. James stood up. Come with me tomorrow morning. 4:30 a.m. Marcus blinked. That early? James didn't smile. If you're looking for comfort, this isn't for you. The next morning, Marcus almost didn't go. The alarm rang. His body was exhausted. His mind immediately started negotiating. You need rest. This won't fix anything. Just one more hour. But something stopped him. Not discipline. Not motivation. Something quieter. A thought. If nothing changes, this is who I stay. And for the first time, that felt unacceptable. He got up, dressed, stepped outside. The city was still asleep. Cold air, empty streets, a strange stillness. It felt like entering a different world. They arrived at a place Marcus would have never noticed. No sign, no branding, just a plain door leading underground. James opened it. Inside, the space was simple. Wooden floors, dim lighting, a quiet presence that felt heavy, like the room itself had memory. And at the center, an old man stood waiting. Still, unmoving, watching. This is where it begins, James said. Marcus looked around, confused, expecting something else. A lecture, advice, a strategy. Instead, the old man spoke, his voice calm, controlled. Do you know what happens to iron under pressure? Marcus hesitated. No. The man stepped closer. It bends. A pause. And sometimes it breaks. Then he looked directly into Marcus' eyes. And right now, you are iron. Marcus felt it. Not insult. Truth. Raw, unfiltered. The old man turned away. If you stay the same, you will break again. He paused, then added quietly, but if you're willing, I can show you how to become something else. Marcus swallowed. What? The man's answer was simple. Steel. And without realizing it, Marcus had just stepped into something far more dangerous than failure. Not a business recovery, not a comeback, a complete reconstruction of who he was. Most people think they want to be strong until they understand what strength actually requires. Because strength, real strength, is not built in comfort. It is built in exposure. Exposure to fear, exposure to pressure, exposure to the parts of yourself you've been avoiding your entire life. And Marcus was about to discover that the process of becoming steel begins with something far more terrifying than failure. Facing the truth. The old man introduced himself simply. Tanaka. No title, no explanation. Just a presence that didn't need validation. Marcus stood there, unsure what to expect. A lecture, a training session, instructions. Instead, Tanaka asked a question. What do you fear most? Marcus answered immediately. Losing everything. Tanaka shook his head. That's not fear, that's consequence. Silence. Marcus frowned. I mean, losing the business, the money, the... Tanaka cut him off. You're still talking about things outside of you. Then he stepped closer. What do you fear when everything is gone? The question landed differently. It wasn't about outcomes anymore. It was about identity. Marcus opened his mouth, then stopped. Nothing came out. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't have an answer. Tanaka didn't rush him. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The silence became uncomfortable. Heavy. Unavoidable. And slowly, something deeper surfaced. Marcus swallowed. His voice dropped. I'm afraid of being nobody. A pause. Of being ordinary. Another pause. Of being forgotten. Tanaka nodded once. Now we begin. You didn't build your life toward success, Tanaka said calmly. You built it away from that fear. Marcus felt something shift. All your ambition, all your effort. It wasn't about winning. It was about proving that you are not what you fear. And suddenly, everything made sense. The long hours. The obsession. The need to succeed. It wasn't passion. It was escape. And when success disappeared, Tanaka continued. That fear returned. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't need to. He felt it. Clearly. Tanaka turned and walked toward the center of the room. The samurai understood this. They knew that if you run from fear, it owns you. But if you face it repeatedly, it loses its power. Marcus crossed his arms. So what? I just think about my fears. Tanaka looked back. No. You experience them. That morning, Marcus was given his first practice. No swords. No techniques. No philosophy. Just one instruction. Sit. He sat. Close your eyes. He did. Then Tanaka said something that made Marcus uncomfortable immediately. Imagine your death. Marcus opened his eyes. What? Tanaka didn't react. Every detail. Your body stopping. The world continuing. Everything you built disappearing. Marcus shook his head. That's pointless. Tanaka's voice didn't change. No. What's pointless is pretending it won't happen. Reluctantly, Marcus closed his eyes again. At first, his mind resisted. Hard. This is stupid. This won't help. You should be fixing your business. But Tanaka didn't stop him. Didn't guide him. Didn't soften it. So Marcus sat there, facing something he had avoided his entire life. Not failure. Not loss. The end. The first day felt unbearable. The second worse. His mind kept trying to escape, to distract, to negotiate. But each time, he forced himself back. By the fifth day, something strange happened. The fear didn't disappear, but it changed. It became clearer, less chaotic, less overwhelming. By the second week, it lost intensity, not because he avoided it, but because he looked directly at it. And with that shift, something else happened. His problems started to shrink. Not physically, but psychologically. Losing the business. Still painful, but not absolute. Being judged. Still uncomfortable, but not paralyzing, because compared to death, everything else became manageable. One evening after practice, Tanaka spoke again. "You faced the end. Now face something harder." Marcus exhaled. What could be worse than that? Tanaka looked at him. "People." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" Tanaka's answer was simple. "Your need for approval." Marcus laughed slightly. "That's normal." Tanaka didn't smile. "Normal is weakness." Then he explained. "A warrior who needs approval can be controlled. And a controlled man is not free." The next exercise sounded ridiculous, almost insulting. "Go outside," Tanaka said, "and do something that invites judgment." Marcus blinked. "Like what?" "Something that makes you uncomfortable." Marcus resisted. "This has nothing to do with my situation." Tanaka stepped closer. "It has everything to do with it. You built your identity on how others see you. That's why you broke." The next day, Marcus walked outside, wearing something he would never normally wear. Bright colors, clashing patterns, ridiculous. Every step felt heavy. Every glance felt like pressure. His mind exploded with noise. "They're judging you. You look stupid. This is unnecessary." But he kept walking. 10 minutes, 20, 30, and then something unexpected happened. Nothing. No one stopped him. No one attacked him. Most people didn't care. And the few who looked changed nothing about his life. The second week, it escalated. Public singing, crowded space, no escape. The embarrassment hit harder, stronger, deeper. But again, he survived. And by the third week, something shifted. Not outside, inside. He walked into a busy square, stopped, and started moving, dancing, alone. At first, tension, then discomfort, then resistance, and then release. For the first time, he wasn't performing. He wasn't proving anything. He wasn't protecting an image. He was just existing. And in that moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not confidence, not pride, freedom. That night, Tanaka spoke again. Everything external is temporary. Approval, disapproval, success, failure. All of it. He stepped closer. The only thing that remains is what you build inside. Marcus nodded slowly. For the first time, he wasn't just listening. He was understanding. But Tanaka wasn't finished. You faced fear. You faced judgment. A pause. Now, you face action. Because becoming steel is not about what you feel. It's about what you do. When everything inside you tells you not to. Most people think the hardest part is starting. Waking up early. Facing fear. Breaking old habits. It's not. The hardest part is continuing when it stops making sense. When results disappear. When progress slows. When life hits you at the exact moment you feel like you're finally improving. That's where most people break. Not at the beginning, but in the middle. And for Marcus, that moment came when he had to choose between comfort and truth. It started with a conversation he had been avoiding for weeks. He knew it, felt it, ignored it, but now he couldn't anymore. Tanaka stood across from him in silence. You know what needs to be done, he said. Marcus looked away. It's not that simple. Tanaka didn't respond immediately. Then calmly, steel doesn't negotiate. Marcus exhaled. It's my co-founder. A pause. My best friend. 12 years. That's how long they had known each other. Built everything together. Shared risks. Shared vision. Shared struggle. But now, he was holding the company back. Unfocused. Uncommitted. Dragging everything down. Marcus knew it. But knowing and acting are not the same. I can't just cut him off, Marcus said. Tanaka stepped closer. You're not protecting him. A pause. You're protecting yourself from discomfort. That hit hard. You think avoiding pain makes you strong, Tanaka continued. But avoidance is what made you weak. Silence filled the room. Marcus felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. His mind immediately started defending itself. Maybe he'll improve. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should wait. But beneath all that noise, there was something quieter, clearer, truth. He already knew what was right. He was just avoiding the cost. Steel, Tanaka said softly, does the right thing, even when it destroys you inside. 3 days passed. Marcus thought about it constantly. Replayed conversations. Imagined outcomes. Searched for a way to make it easier. There wasn't one. On the 4th day, he made the call. The meeting was short, but heavy. At first, confusion. Then frustration. Then anger. You're giving up on me, his friend said. Marcus stayed still. This isn't working anymore. Voices rose. Accusations followed. Years of trust collapsing in minutes. And when it was over, Marcus walked out alone. It felt worse than failure. Worse than losing the company. Because this time, he didn't just lose something external. He lost something personal. That night, he returned to the dojo. Tanaka looked at him, said nothing for a moment, then asked, "Do you feel it?" Marcus nodded. "Good," Tanaka said. "That means you still have a heart." A pause. "But you acted anyway." Another pause. "That means you have steel." Marcus sat down slowly. The pain didn't disappear. It stayed, sharp present. But something else was there too. Stability. For the first time, he didn't run from discomfort. He moved through it. And that changed everything. But Tanaka wasn't finished. Not even close. Moments like this don't build strength, he said. They reveal it. Then he added, if you stop now, you go back to iron. The next phase began immediately. Not intense. Not dramatic. Repetitive. A fixed routine. Every day. Same time. Same actions. No negotiation. 4:30 a.m. Wake up. No delay. Silence. Visualization. Facing the end again. Movement. Controlled. Precise. Over and over. Cold water. Shock to the body. No escape. And then, work. Focused. Undistracted. At first, it felt mechanical. Pointless. Marcus questioned it constantly. How is this helping? This isn't fixing the business. This is too extreme. Tanaka's answer never changed. You're still thinking about results. This has nothing to do with results. Days passed. Then weeks. Something subtle began to shift. On day 7, he woke up before the alarm. On day 14, the routine felt familiar. On day 21, the internal negotiation started to disappear. No more. Should I? Just action. And that's when Marcus understood something most people never realize. Discipline is not about forcing yourself. It's about removing the need to decide. But just as everything started to stabilize, life hit again. Day 32. Fever, weakness, body completely drained. Marcus could barely stand. The old version of him would have stopped immediately. Rest, recover, reset later. His mind tried. This is different. You're sick. This is a valid excuse. For a moment, he almost believed it. Then he remembered. Steel doesn't stop. So he adapted. Not perfect, but not zero. Instead of full practice. Partial, instead of standing. Sitting, instead of full exposure. Reduced, but never nothing. And that changed something fundamental. Because he didn't break the chain. And once the chain stays intact, identity follows. Weeks later, another test. Not failure this time. Success. The business showed signs of recovery. Opportunities returned. Momentum built. And with it, a dangerous thought. You don't need this anymore. Comfort whispered. Relax. You've proven enough. This time, Marcus didn't hesitate. He recognized it. The trap. Success wasn't the reward. It was the test. So he continued. Unchanged. Unmoved. Because now, this wasn't about the business. It was about who he was becoming. Day 73. The real test arrived. His father was hospitalized. Emergency. Immediate travel. Everything disrupted. Routine broken. Environment changed. Stress amplified. The perfect excuse to stop. Marcus sat in the hospital hallway. Alone. Waiting. His mind spoke again. Not now. This is different. But this time, there was no negotiation left. He moved his hands. Slow. Precise. Invisible practice. In the bathroom. Cold water. In silence. Stillness. Not perfect, but continuous. And in that moment, everything became clear. This was never about routine. It was about identity. A samurai doesn't train for the situation. He trains because he is a samurai. Day 100 came quietly. No celebration. No transformation moment. Just another morning. But Marcus was no longer the same man. The business, still uncertain. Life, still unpredictable. But Marcus didn't break. Months later, the company failed completely. Closed. Gone. And for the first time in his life, Marcus remained standing. Not happy. Not relieved. But whole, because he finally understood. You are not your success. You are not your failure. You are what remains. When both are taken away, and if what remains is strong, nothing can break you. That is the will of steel. Not loud, not visible, not emotional, just Or do you want to be forged?